Hello, this is the second segment of the Business Intelligence Project. The Business Intelligence Project, this is the second out of three major projects that are due in the BUSI 100 MIS class. The first section or segment of this video covered the overview of what business intelligence and data mining is all about. This particular segment will get into how to log into the remote server and go through the initial instructions on how to access the data warehouse that we're going to be using to complete the project. This segment will involve logging into a server that is actually located at the University of Arkansas's Walton School of Business. And so we have set up user IDs for each of you to be able to log in for this particular assignment. Now, in the instructions, I have some detailed setup, but I'm going to go through those setups right now to log into the remote desktop. And so the first thing is you have to make sure that you're connecting properly to the right server. So that's specified right here. You can see that on the screen. And we'll also need to click on the Advanced tab to be able to make sure that we're getting to the server correctly. So I click on the options, then go to Advanced, then click on Settings. From Settings, I want to click on this second option here, use these remote desktop gateway server settings. I already have it pre-populated. You'll have to enter in this particular information right here. And then I'm going to press OK. Go back to General and make sure I can log in properly here and connect. Now at this point the computer is reaching out across the internet to connect up to the Walton servers, and each one of you should have received a particular user ID and password. So I'm going to go back to our Sakai setup here, and you should see listed in the assignment your name and the particular ID and password. I'm using this particular ID right now just to demonstrate that, so I'm going to copy that password. It makes it a little bit easier, so when I come back here I can just paste the password right in. It is case sensitive, so you have to be careful about that. So press in. Okay, in the second part of the Business Intelligence Project video, I want to show how to access the database with Microsoft Excel. And so what we're doing in Excel is using this tool as the decision support tool. If you've reviewed the overview series, that's where I talked about how the overall decision support model extracts data from a large data warehouse. So we will be accessing a couple of data warehouses, one for Dillard's and one for Sam's Club, with a bunch of customer data that has been stored on these remote servers. And we're using Excel as the decision support tool. I already have Excel open, so once you've logged in with your user account and password, you should be able to start up Excel. The next thing we need to do is be able to extract data or make a connection to the data warehouse. And so if you click in Excel on the Data tab and then click on From Other Sources and then go to Analysis Services. Now we're going to need to connect or type in the server name that we're going to connect to that has all of our data. And again, this is going to be the instruction set, but you can see it here. We leave Windows authentication turned on based on our login credentials. We press Next, and then we should have access to a couple of different data cubes, and one of them being Dillard's and the other being Sam's Club. For purposes of this exercise, I'm just going to stick with Dillard's and then click the UA Dillard's cube that's already been built for us. Then click Next. And at this point, you can probably keep the default information up on the top. I like to check the attempt to use this file because that way when I go back in and build out subsequent data queries, I don't have to go through all of this setup again. Press Finish.
and then press OK. And what we're doing here is we're creating a pivot table report, and it will go back into whatever cell has been highlighted at the time when we opened up Excel. So they should be in cell A1, and that's where you want this pivot table to come into play. Now, a quick intro on pivot tables. Well, this is actually a great tool from Microsoft to be able to analyze data in a variety of different ways, using kind of the techie term of slice and dice the data. And so I'm just going to walk through a simple example with the Dillard's information, and I'm going to look at the transaction amount. In other words, this is the total amount of sales that went on with Dillard's for the period of time that we have our database. And this is what's called a fact or a value piece of information. Again, you can read up more on this in the instructions. The other dimensions that I want to look at in this simple example is department. And so these are basically different departments or brands within the store. And then geography. And actually geography, if you notice, by default pops up down here in rows. I'm going to move that over to the columns. And then what you can see in the main section of the spreadsheet is all of the different states laid out in columns and the different products laid out in the different rows. Now what I can do is some basic filtering here, and let's say I want to zero in on Reebok sales that are occurring in Stockton. So I can just scroll down and check just the Reebok particular brand, press OK. And then now we have a breakout by state of all the different sales or the transaction amounts for the Reebok products. Let's say I want to focus on just California. So again, now I'm clicking in the column labels. I'm going to deselect everything and then select, or actually expand out here, California, and then let's look at the Stockton store only. So that would be the Stockton Dillard's store that we have information on. So here's our sales for this particular time frame, $241,000 of Reebok sales. So that's a quick intro to pivot tables within Microsoft Excel and how to access the Dillard's and Sam's Club data cubes that you will need to use for the business intelligence project. Okay, at this point, I've completed the basic query, in this case just looking at Reebok sales in California. In order to save the work, what I want to do is just click down here on Sheet 1, and let's just call this Exercise 1. When you're doing the project, there's going to be several different queries, and the idea is that each query will go on a different tab of your worksheet for Dillard's, and then you'll have a completely different Excel workbook for Sam's Club. And then at this point, let's say I completed several different queries. I should be able to just click up here and do normal save for the Excel. Let's just call this one Dillard's for the Excel workbook, and this is what's going to be turned in. Now, one thing you need to remember is that this particular workbook is on the remote server. I would recommend that after you get done completing this work that you email this or somehow copy this to your own local storage, on your local PC, or email it to you so you can then download it later on.